Welcome back to the channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. Today we are talking about a coin that millions of people have held, spent, or ignored, and yet some versions of it have quietly sold for serious money. I'm talking about the United States of America 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar. The bicentennial coin. The one you think you already know. And that's exactly why it surprises people. Most collectors don't realize this coin was never meant to be ordinary. It was struck to celebrate 200 years of American independence, and that alone makes it different from every other Kennedy half dollar. But here's the twist. Not all of these coins are equal. Some are pocket change. Others are the kind you don't forget after you see the price. Stay with me, because by the end of this video I'll tell you which versions actually matter, what mistakes to look for, and what real collectors are paying for them right now. Take a close look at the front of the coin. You still see President John F. Kennedy, calm and familiar. But now flip it over. This is where things change. Instead of the presidential seal, you get Independence Hall, along with the dates 1776 and 1976. That single design change instantly tells you this is a bicentennial issue. Show a slow close-up of the reverse here, letting the details fill the screen. These coins were made in huge numbers between 1975 and 1976, so rarity is not about the date alone. It's about how and where the coin was made. Most people have the copper-nickel clad version. Those were made for circulation, and in average condition they're usually worth face value, sometimes up to a couple of dollars if they're clean and bright. But now here's where collectors lean in. The San Francisco Mint also struck special versions containing 40% silver. These were not meant for circulation. They were sold in collector sets. You can't spot them instantly from across the room, but the edge gives them away. Fewer copper layers showing. A more solid, silvery look. Hold the camera on the coin's edge when you say this. In today's market, a typical 40% silver bicentennial Kennedy half dollar often sells for around $8 to $15, depending on condition and silver prices. Proof versions, especially with deep mirror-like surfaces, can bring more when they're well preserved. Now let's talk about the coins that really make people rewind the video. Errors. Some bicentennial Kennedy halves were struck off-center. Others show doubled lettering, especially in the date or the word Liberty. A very small number were struck on the wrong planchet or missing part of their outer layer. These are the coins that change the conversation. When these errors are verified by grading services and offered at auction, prices can climb into the hundreds of dollars, and in rare cases, well into the thousands. Not because every bicentennial coin is rare, but because mistakes at the mint are. Here's a fun detail most people miss. Even though the coin says 1776 to 1976, none of these were actually struck in 1976 alone. They were made over 2 years, which already makes them a little unusual in US coin history. So let me ask you this. Do you have one of these sitting in a drawer right now? Have you ever checked the edge, the weight, or the details under good light? And which coin would you love to add to your collection if price didn't matter? To wrap it up, the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar is a perfect example of how a common-looking coin can still have layers of history, silver content, and rare surprises hiding in plain sight. Some are worth 50 cents. Some are worth far more. The difference is in the details. Top 2. Today we are talking about a Kennedy half dollar that almost everyone has seen, many people have spent, and very few have ever truly checked. The 1972 D Kennedy half dollar. Here's the crazy part. Some of these coins are worth exactly 50 cents, and others have sold for hundreds of dollars. Same year. Same design. Totally different story. In the next few minutes, I'll show you why this coin still matters, what collectors are secretly hunting for, and how one tiny detail can flip this coin from pocket change into something auction-worthy. Stick with me to the end, because the difference is smaller than you think. Let's look at the coin. Bring it up close. On the front, you've got John F. Kennedy's portrait, clean and familiar. Tilt the coin under the light and watch how the surface reacts. Now flip it over. The eagle spreads its wings across the reverse, strong but often softly struck. Look near the bottom. That small D mint mark tells you this coin was struck in Denver. By 1972, Kennedy half dollars were no longer made of silver. These are copper-nickel clad coins, and that alone causes many people to ignore them. Big mistake. With this year, the value has nothing to do with metal and everything to do with strike quality, condition, and mistakes made at the mint. Here's where the story gets interesting. The Denver Mint in 1972 was known for weak strikes. Kennedy's hair, especially above the ear, often looks flat. The eagle's chest feathers can be soft or missing detail. That means finding a sharply struck example is far harder than the mintage numbers suggest. Show a side-by-side shot here. One coin with dull, flat details. Another with strong hair lines and crisp feathers. This is the moment collectors pause the video. Most circulated 1972 D halves are worth face value. Maybe $1 if they're clean. But uncirculated coins with strong strikes are a different story. In high mint state grades, these coins become genuinely scarce. Now let's talk about the reason people still search rolls for this coin. Errors. Some 1972 D Kennedy half dollars show double die features, especially in the word Liberty or the date. Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design shifted. A small number show clipped planchets or unusual surface flaws. These are not everyday finds, and when they're authenticated, collectors pay real money. Zoom in tight here. Show the lettering. Let viewers see how doubling looks when the light hits it just right. Once you know what to look for, you start seeing possibilities everywhere. Here's a detail most people miss. Because half dollars weren't heavily used in daily spending by the early 1970s, many 1972 D coins sat in bags for years. They knocked into each other, picking up marks before ever reaching circulation. That's why clean examples are tougher than expected. So what's the real value? A circulated 1972 D Kennedy half dollar is usually worth 50 cents to $1. A nice uncirculated example often sells for $10 to $20. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional services have sold for several $100s at auction. Verified error coins can sell for even more, depending on how dramatic the mistake is. That's a massive jump for a coin most people never look twice at. So let me ask you. Do you own any Kennedy half dollars from the early 1970s? Have you ever checked the hair detail or the lettering closely? And which error coin would you love to find just once? To wrap it up, the 1972 D Kennedy half dollar proves that common coins can still hide uncommon value. No silver. No special release. Just weak strikes, tough grading, and rare errors hiding in plain sight. Most are ordinary. A few are special. Top 3. Today we are talking about a Kennedy half dollar that looks simple, has no mint mark, and yet quietly sits at the end of an entire silver era. The 1967 Kennedy half dollar. Here's the surprise. This coin was never meant to be collected the normal way, and some versions have sold for prices that catch even experienced collectors off guard. In the next few minutes, I'll show you why this coin exists in a strange moment in US history, how to tell the ordinary examples from the special ones, and which small details can push a 1967 half dollar far beyond what most people expect. Stay with me to the end, because this year hides more than it shows. Bring the coin up close. On the front, you see John F. Kennedy's portrait, strong and familiar. Now look closely for a mint mark. There isn't one. That's not an error. In 1967, the U.S. Mint removed all mint marks to discourage people from hoarding coins during a nationwide coin shortage. Every 1967 Kennedy half dollar was struck in Philadelphia, even though the coin never tells you that. Now flip it over. The eagle looks bold, but the surface has a slightly different feel than modern half dollars. Tilt it under the light. This coin is made of 40% silver. Not solid silver, but real silver layered around a copper core. This makes 1967 one of the final Kennedy half dollars with precious metal inside. Here's where things get interesting. These coins were not released in proof sets or regular mint sets. Instead, the mint produced something unusual called special mint sets. The coins inside weren't proofs, but they weren't normal circulation strikes either. They have a smooth, satin-like finish that looks different once you know what to look for. Show a side-by-side shot here. A regular circulation strike next to a special mint set coin. Notice how the surfaces reflect light differently. This difference matters. Most circulated 1967 Kennedy half dollars are worth more than face value simply because of silver. Today, a worn example often sells for around $4 to $8, depending on silver prices. A clean uncirculated coin can reach $10 to $20, but special mint set coins change the conversation. In high grades, these coins become genuinely scarce. Some professionally graded examples have sold for several $100s at auction, purely because of condition and finish. Now let's talk about what really keeps collectors watching. Errors. Some 1967 Kennedy half dollars show doubled lettering, especially in Liberty or the date. Others were struck off-center, clipped, or show missing layers that expose strange textures. These errors are not common, and when they're certified, prices can climb quickly. Zoom in tight here. Show the lettering. Show the edge. This is the moment viewers start checking their own coins. Here's a fun detail many people don't know. Because mint marks were removed and finishes were unusual, 1967 is one of the trickiest years for Kennedy half-dollar collectors to understand. It looks ordinary. It isn't. So let me ask you. Do you own a 1967 Kennedy half dollar? Have you ever checked the edge or the surface under good light? And which silver Kennedy would you love to find in perfect condition? To wrap it up, the 1967 Kennedy half dollar is a coin caught between worlds. No mint marks. 40% silver. Special finishes. And rare errors hiding in plain sight. Most are modestly valuable. A few are quietly impressive. Top 4. Today we are talking about a Kennedy half dollar that might look ordinary, but one detail makes it quietly sought after by collectors even decades later. The 1971 D Kennedy half dollar. On the surface, it's a standard coin. Copper nickel clad. No silver. And yet some of these coins sell for way more than face value if you know what to look for. In the next few minutes, I'll show you why this coin is interesting, what makes some 1971 D have stand out, and which tiny errors or rare conditions can push its value far beyond 50 cents. Stick around, because the difference between ordinary and collectible can be almost invisible. Let's start by looking at the coin. Bring it up close. On the front, John F. Kennedy's portrait is sharp, familiar, and classic. Tilt it under light and notice the fields, the smooth surfaces where scratches or marks really show up. Now flip it over. The eagle on the reverse is bold, but in 1971, the strike quality at the Denver Mint could vary. That small D mint mark at the bottom tells you where it was struck. Here's why 1971 D is more interesting than it looks. By this year, Kennedy halves were no longer silver. The mint switched completely to copper nickel clad. That makes condition the key factor. Coins that are clean, sharp, and free from bag marks are rare because most of these were used in circulation and handled daily. Show a side-by-side comparison here. One coin with dull surfaces and flattened hair, another with crisp details and strong luster. That difference is where collectors start noticing value. Now let's talk about the part that keeps collectors hunting rolls. Errors. Some 1971 D Kennedy halves show doubled lettering, especially in the date or in Liberty. Others were struck slightly off-center or show weak details in the eagle's feathers or Kennedy's hair. There are even a few with small planchet flaws that make each coin unique. These aren't common, and when they're authenticated, they can sell for hundreds of dollars at auction. Zoom in close here. Show the lettering and the edge. Let viewers see what double dies or off-center strikes look like under light. Once you notice them, it changes the way you look at every half dollar. Here's a fun fact. By 1971, half dollars were less popular in circulation. Banks didn't order as many, and cashiers rarely handled them. That's why high-grade coins are quietly scarce. Even though millions were minted, most show wear today. So what's the real market value? A typical circulated 1971 D. Kennedy half-dollar is worth face value, maybe $1 or $2 if it's clean. Uncirculated coins can fetch $10 to $20, depending on strike quality. Coins with strong details, top grading, or verified errors have sold for several $100s. So let me ask you. Do you own any Kennedy halves from the early 1970s? Have you ever checked the hair detail or the lettering closely? And which modern coin would you love to find in perfect condition? To wrap it up, the 1971 D. Kennedy half-dollar shows that even ordinary-looking coins can hide value. No silver, no fancy design changes, just subtle variations, high-grade survivors, and rare errors that collectors notice. Most are ordinary. A few are quietly valuable. Top 5. Today we are talking about a Kennedy half-dollar that most people pass by without a second thought, but one version of this coin has quietly become a collector's favorite. The 2000 P. Kennedy half-dollar. It looks ordinary, it's made of copper nickel, and at first glance, you'd think it's worth just 50 cents. But there's a catch. Some of these coins have features and errors that can make them surprisingly valuable. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why this coin matters, how to spot the ones collectors really want, and what tiny details can turn a common 2000 P half-dollar into something auction-worthy. Stick around, because the differences are subtle, but they're everything. Let's start by looking at the coin. Bring it up close. On the front, you have John F. Kennedy's portrait, clean and familiar. Tilt the coin under the light and notice the fields, the smooth surfaces where scratches, marks, or die anomalies show up. Flip it over. The eagle on the reverse is sharp, but the small P mint mark at the bottom tells you it came from Philadelphia. That little letter can make all the difference. Here's the first surprising detail. By 2000, Kennedy half-dollars were barely used in circulation. Most people didn't spend them, and banks ordered very few. That means many of these coins were saved, handled, and sometimes poorly stored in rolls or bags. Finding one in high mint condition is rarer than you'd expect. Show a side-by-side shot here. One coin with dull surfaces and minor bag marks. Another with bright luster, crisp details, and no scratches. You can see immediately why collectors chase the clean examples. Now let's talk errors, the part that really excites collectors. Some 2000 P. Kennedy half-dollars show double die features, especially in the date or the word Liberty. Others were struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design shifted or weakly struck. A few have minor planchet flaws, like small clips or unusual surface textures. These errors are rare, and when authenticated, they can dramatically increase value. Zoom in tight on the lettering here. Show the edge. This is where collectors pause and start inspecting their own coins. Here's a fun historical detail. The 2000 P was part of a larger trend at the turn of the millennium where Kennedy halves were mainly collected, not circulated. That's why uncirculated coins and special errors from this year often command more interest than older, common halves that circulated widely. So what's the market value? Most circulated 2000 P. Kennedy half-dollars are worth face value, 50 cents. Uncirculated examples with strong luster can sell for $5 to $10. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional services have sold for $20 to $50 at auction. Verified error coins can go even higher, depending on the type and severity of the mistake. Let me ask you, do you own any Kennedy half-dollars from the 2000s? Have you ever checked the lettering or the edge under good light? And which modern coin would you love to find in perfect condition? To wrap it up, the 2000 P. Kennedy half-dollar proves that even modern coins can hide surprises. No silver, no dramatic design changes, just high-grade survivors, subtle minting quirks, and rare errors waiting to be found. Most are ordinary. Some are quietly valuable. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more coin discoveries. Watch the next video too, because the next coin we explore might already be sitting in your collection, waiting for you to notice it.